Welcome again to Cruising in the Kitchen. Today we're going to do a quick tip on how to cut up a butternut squash. Most people just cut this in half and bake it in an oven and use that for like puree, you know, with butter and whatnot. But today, when you go in the store, you see it all the time. You see the little cubes in a bag or whatnot for the squash. I just want to show you a real quick tip on how to do that. You want to start with a sharp knife, and pretty much the most important part of the whole thing is starting with a knife that is able to cut through a root vegetable. You can see that you could peel this, but it'd be very difficult and it would take you a long time. So, I use the knife technique. You pay extra in the store for something like this that's already cut up. So we'll start with this piece. And nothing more than the way you do an orange to get the peel off of an orange. And this is a pretty thick knife, so you have a couple choices. If you want to be a little bit more precise, it's a little easier with a thinner knife for that. I use the thicker knife to get the tops off. You know, this thing is pretty solid, hard. So this knife would be a little bit harder to get the top and the bottom off. I just use two knives if I want. Just like an orange. And believe me, this is very quick compared to trying to peel with that peeling machine. You know, the little peeler that we all use. And the other benefit of eating a squash like this, we're going to cube it up, and we're going to toss it with salt, pepper, olive oil, maybe a little thyme, you know, whatever hearty dry herb you want to try, and we just roast it off. Much more healthy than the squash you eat for Thanksgiving with all the butter and things like that. This is a very healthy way to eat squash. That's why you see it in the store all the time inside the bags, with the little cubes. It's very convenient that way. So, you get all that off. Then we'll just cut this in half, and we'll scoop out the stuff, the seeds. Any kind of spoon. I like to use a bigger spoon because I can get more at one time. I just scrape. Pull out. Scrape some more. This is the most difficult part of the whole process, is doing this. When this is cooked, it's a lot softer, so people try it that time too. I like it this way. Just get most of it out. Same thing with the other one. You could actually, there's other ways you can do this too. Here, I'll try different ways just to show you. You can scoop half of it out. I mean, there's all different ways of doing the same thing, whatever you're comfortable with. Use a smaller spoon if you're more comfortable with that. Just want to get the stuff out. So, that's why you pay extra, because it's already cut up in the store and somebody had to manually do a lot of work to get the butternut squash into that shape. Personally, I think that's why a lot of people just roast it. Cut it in half and roast it, because this is more work. Much healthier though. So cube it up. You want even-sized pieces so it all cooks at the same time. Like I said, we're just going to spread that out on a sheet tray. Salt, pepper, olive oil. And that's what it looks like in the store when you go to buy a bag. You get these little pieces. And more or less the same size. Lift this off. So, this knife is super sharp, very helpful. Usually you get cut a lot worse by a dull knife. So, we can move right to this thing. I mean, I could do a couple things. I can go down the side with this knife. Like I said, sometimes a little bit thinner knife keep you a little bit more in control. And I could cut this in half and do half at a time. I think I'm pretty comfortable doing the whole thing at once because it's nice and level. and it's all one shape, and that's the whole purpose of cutting that bottom piece off and not fussing with the curves of that. This makes this piece a lot easier to finish, and I do like the thinner knife for the sides. Takes a little bit of practice so you don't take too much off, but it's always better to take a little bit less off and just come back to it. But this skin is super thick, so it's got to come off. You cannot eat this. I think a lot of people are looking at this and saying, I think I'll just buy that bag that I normally see in the store that's already cut up, but I highly recommend this. This is fresher. And it's a lot cheaper. I don't know what they charge, the difference, but anytime that the food is processed by hand, you're going to pay more per pound for it. So there you go. Same thing with this. You can do, I want to do cubes. And I could have cut it into rings before. Just remember back to this knife. I could have cut it in rings and then cut the skin off the rings. So there's other options. But I do want, I want to stress that the cubes should be as uniform as you can get them, so they all cook at the same time. 375 oven, maybe a 400 oven. Not much higher than that. And I always say cook them till they're done, and I would recommend at least, even this shape, which is small, this is going to still take at least 20-25 minutes, half hour, depending on how hot the oven is. So we'll just continue and cut this all up. At the very end, I'll show you a picture of what it looks like coming out of the oven on a sheet tray. But basically, I just wanted to give you a quick tip on how to cut up a butternut squash. Don't forget to like and subscribe. And if you think my t-shirt, if you're wondering what that's about, feel free to go to Pediatric Brain Foundation, make a donation.